Welcome to Searching for the Question Live. My name is David Orban, and I am very glad to have all of you here at the show. We are streaming live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and you are very welcome to ask questions, make comments. It is the beauty of being live. We have the ability to read what you write and give you feedback, just as you are giving feedback to us. You can also join our Discord community, where we continue the discussions around the themes that we address live on the show at davidorban.com/Discord. And if you like what you are seeing, if you believe that there is value in what I am creating together with my team, you are very welcome to become a fan, a supporter, a sponsor, or a benefactor on Patreon at patreon.com/David Orban. Today's guest is Francesco Mosconi, for those who speak Italian. And Francesco and I have known each other for almost 10 years, I think, because I met him at Singularity University, where he was a student of mine. And as it happens with many, after having his brain rewired by the experience, and even though he loves Italy, and especially his region in the north near the mountains, he decided to stay in the Bay Area. And we kept in touch. So since the things that Francesco is doing these days are very interesting, I invited him to be a guest, and very kindly he accepted. So, Francesco, welcome to Searching for the Question Live.
Thank you very much for having me here today.
So let's start with that. Am I right that you would love to be back in Italy, but it's just not possible? The kind of intellectual stimulation that you received, the opportunities that you have in the Bay Area are not the same that you would experience in back at home. Is that right?
I think it was more right in the past.
Okay.
Definitely when I moved here 9 years ago, there was a big gap in what I could experience here in terms of access to knowledge and people and opportunities and capital, and what I could experience in Italy. I think it's less true now. There is a number of factors that are contributing to it. I think most recently COVID-19 made all us virtual and mobile. And as a matter of fact, there's a lot of people leaving San Francisco and leaving the Bay Area because now they can work from anywhere. And so, maybe I'll come back at some point.
So let's look at this. I always like to show the last guest we had, Michelle Bowens, was connected from Chiang Mai in Thailand. A beautiful place. I have never been, but my son Cosimo likes it. He was there when we could travel, and you are in beautiful San Francisco or thereabouts, which is right across from the ocean. Are you actually in San Francisco, or?
I am in San Francisco. I am still in San Francisco, one of the few.
and yes, what you said about the remote work and how large corporations are adopting it, I think is very important. Google confirmed just a few weeks ago that they won't need to have people back in the office for at least another year.
Yeah.
And what they are not saying is that there is no going back from there, because if you are a senior engineer at Google and you are paid whatever you are paid, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, and you say, you know what, I will move with my family and I will go to Oregon or wherever, because the only thing I need is a high-speed fiber optic connection, and I radically reduce the cost of life. Maybe I improve the quality of life. Maybe I won't have to commute 1-2 hours per day to go to the office in Mountain View. Well, when Google a year from now is going to say, hey, everybody, you can come back, those engineers will say, no, thanks. I'm not coming back. And not only Google will not.
I completely agree. It's not going to come back. It's not going to come back.
On the positive side, what Google and everyone else, from a recruiter point of view, is going to realize is that previously they were concentrating on an extremely and artificially restricted pool of talent, the people who were already there in the Bay Area or who were available
to move.
And they will get a taste for the beauty of a wider pool of talent anywhere in the world. And they will say, wow, this is actually pretty cool. So they will not want to go back either.
Yeah.
And it is going to be very interesting. So that is going to be
completely agree. It's I think it's a transition that will change things forever. It's not gonna go back to offices and big skyscrapers full of people.
Yeah, what we will have to start understanding is digital serendipity, because a lot of the benefit of mingling, whether it is a cocktail party or a dinner with a few friends, half of them you don't know, is to discover unexpectedly valuable connections. And of course, every taxi driver in New York or waitress is an actor. Every taxi driver in Los Angeles is a script writer or wannabe movie director.
Yeah.
And everyone, whatever they do in San Francisco, is a start-upper, is a potential CEO or actual CEO of a startup. And meeting physically used to be important. So do you have any idea of what will substitute the physical serendipity? What will constitute digital serendipity?
I think there is two trends that are starting to, come out very clearly. Maybe the most innovative is all the experimentation around digital platforms that allow you to do that. Now, there are many of them that try to extend the concept of video conferencing that we have in Zoom and Skype and whatever in ways that allows for more serendipity or interaction in an office-like space or in a conference-like space. That's a trend that's going to continue for sure. I don't think there is one platform that has nailed the user experience yet, but there is a number of experiments in that arena. I think there is another trend, which is platforms that create serendipitous connections based on interests. I've been invited to one such platform where you can sign up every week for a number of video calls with completely random strangers.
Do you remember the URL or the name of the platform?
I think it's called Lunch Club.
Okay.
And you just decide how many calls you want to have in a week and specify what your goals are and what your interests are, and you exactly, and you get matched and you get to talk to people. So that's another trend. There is another platform that I've used consistently. It's called Rally, Rally, and that's more for like conference-like serendipitous encounters at events, digital events. It's with a Y. Rally.
Giovanni? Well,
Yeah.
the cards came on.
I'll find the link and send it so you can share it later on. Don't think that's the one. If you want, I can look for it.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
It's go.rally.video. Rally.video. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. I love experimenting with these platforms. So I'm always happy to have new ones pointed out to me. As a matter of fact, I started my live shows using Zoom, and a friend of mine from Pakistan is a big fan of StreamYard, the platform we are using right now. And so I just experimented with it. I liked it and adopted it. So I'm always looking for the next thing to test. Thank you for pointing out Rally and Launch Club. I will try both.
Absolutely.
So tell me about your trajectory. Where did you start? What did you study? How did you discover Singularity University and decided to go there? And then what did you do after that over the course of the past years?
Happy to tell you that. I just wanted to point out one more trend that I think it's going to stay to your previous question, which is I think events will stay. People will stop gathering in cities, but live events will become more and more prevalent. So as soon as
I will be very happy to go there
with
a plastic bubble.
No, I think we'll get COVID sorted. It will take some time, but
well, that's right. Yeah. So vaccine or real-time testing or whatever it is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so your question was how did this whole thing started? I don't know if you know it. Maybe I've never told you, but it's actually thanks to you or because of you that I discovered the existence of Singularity University.
I remember you calling me and asking me whether you should go and what I actually recommended between that and the other choice you were contemplating at the time, but I didn't remember that you found it because of me.
So you gave a brief talk, and I'm talking of it was probably like late 2010 or early 2011. You gave a brief talk at an event organized in Milan by Mind the Bridge. And I was in the audience, and you were talking about this place in Silicon Valley called Singularity University. And I was like, that really sounds like a place I'd like to go to. And so then after I called you and asked you some information about it, ended up attending the summer program in 2011. And that started a journey that was has not finished yet. And it's still going.
But as a matter of fact, what you are doing now, data science, was already something that you were passionate about.
Yeah, the alternative of that summer, I had also been offered a position at Facebook for data science. It was not called data science yet. It was they were looking for like math and physics majors doing data analysis. In hindsight, I'd probably be rich if I had accepted that position right now. But there's always opportunities you miss along the road, and SU was an amazing opportunity for many other reasons.
What is money anyway?
Exactly. So all good. It opened up to so many possibilities that I'm very happy I took the opportunity to come.
And tell us whether you like the expression data science or not. For me, just to tell you, just like computer science, it is aspirational. But science has a fairly precise definition, and neither computer science nor data science actually fits the definition of the interaction between experiments and theory and opening the doors to previously unknown facets of the world. So in that sense, I don't like the expression.
I'm not so strongly opinionated on it. I think what the one of the misunderstandings is that companies use the term data scientist to indicate anything and everything and any job role that has to do somehow with data. And one particular job role, which is the product data scientist, actually is somewhat of a scientist, because your primary goal is to run, your primary task is to run experiments like a scientist would do. And from those experiments, extract insights to inform the product roadmap or decisions that the executives may take. But you will find roles that are called data scientists that are more like data analytics or machine learning engineer or software engineer with some data sprinkled in it. So I think it's more to do.
This Venn diagram looks fairly good. At the intersection of math and statistics, computer science and information technology, knowledge management,
or business and the domain,
or business analytics, business domain, and appropriately it fills in other slices as well. But the intersection of the three is what this defines data science. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what about the relative confusion or overlap, whether intended or just due to ignorance, between artificial intelligence and data science? A lot of data scientists look at AI condescendingly, and they say, well, that is just data science. That is just statistics.
Yeah. So there is an ongoing debate, and that's because AI is a brand that can make. Yep.
You are back. Go ahead.
Yes. I'm saying AI is a brand that can make a company more valuable just because you say we have AI. And so everybody wants to claim they're doing artificial intelligence one way or another. To be specific, I think the relationship is machine learning, which is one particular way of doing inference from data, is a branch of artificial intelligence. So if you picture AI as a big family, there is one part of it which is machine learning, and inside that there is one small part which is deep learning, which is one particular technique. And what happens is that some of the results that were obtained in this particular field recently ended up being quite astonishing and promising. And so people started to identify deep learning with all of AI when it's not. And data science, as you're showing, overlaps with these, but it's not just that. And I think the main difference is data scientists are often asked to provide insights for decision, whereas AI, machine learning, and deep learning, they primarily focus on automating such decisions with models. So it's really two different takes. In one case, you're looking at data, trying to understand it and come with policies that are data informed. That's data science. In machine learning, deep learning, AI, call it what you want, you're trying to automate one particular task or more.
We have Eyal Fischler saying hello.
Hey, Fish, good to see you.
And Emiliano commenting positively on my new setup because he's a fan of the show, so he is always very alert about whether I am improving, and he's always pushing me to improve. So after finishing Singularity University, a lot of people feel like aliens who have landed from Mars, and they have a hard time relating to other humans. What did you do? Did you find a quotation marks job? How did you go about your things at the time?
Yeah, so for about 1 year, I came back to Europe and did a few jobs as a consultant in the innovation implementation of innovation space. I worked both for startups and for large companies, both in Italy and in other countries. But really, I had been inspired by Silicon Valley and I wanted to come back. So after 1 year in Europe, I decided to come back here, and I did it quite recklessly. I didn't really plan it. I did literally one day decided, okay, we should go back to the United States, and I didn't have a visa, I didn't have a job offer, I had nothing. So I had to figure it out. Eventually, a startup that was at the moment just two guys in a garage, literally, like all startups here. They were looking for a data person, and I was looking for a startup. We ended up joining forces. I joined.
Do you remember how you met them?
Yes, absolutely. One of the two founders was introduced by a friend who was also incubated in StartX, which is the Stanford Startup Accelerator. And so, completely serendipitous. I want to do a shout out here to Tarun Pizza in Palo Alto, because I was eating a pizza there, met this Italian friend who I hadn't seen for a while. His name is Adriano Farano, and he's now in Paris. We had met in Paris. He was doing a startup. We catch up, and I told him, like, I'm here, looking to meet interesting people. And he introduced me to maybe, 10 people, and one of them turned out to be my future co-founders of Spire.
Well, let's hope that Tarun Pizza can open soon, because for the moment they are closed. And yeah, that is wonderful. That is the kind of serendipity that we mentioned a few minutes ago. And what did this startup do?
So Spire is still alive, and it's a company that produced the first wearable device that can track respiration in real time. We invented it, patented it, produced it, mass-produced it, and sold it. It's a small gadget you put on your belt, and it tracks your breathing frequency as well as your steps and your calories. And that at that time was the beginning of wearables, and it was a very interesting space. Spire has evolved since then, and now it's fully focused on medical grade respiration monitoring. It's been a very interesting journey.
It started consumer and then went to medical.
Yes, it started consumer and then went to medical.
Of what sometimes happens, because producing a consumer device and then get into an Apple store, which I think Spire.
Yeah, we did. We were one of the first hardware wearables in the Apple store.
Yeah, that is very hard and very expensive. Also, navigating the regulatory space so that you can provide information to the consumer, but you don't end up being censored by the FDA.
Yeah.
That is very hard.
Yeah.
And so Spire decided to instead go and pivot towards the health, the professional health. Okay.
And there's good reasons why we did that. At the time, respiration monitoring in consumer space was non-existent. Nobody had any sensor that remotely looked like ours. All the sensors were step counters like Fitbit and similar. And we were not entirely sure of the market, and we were not entirely sure of the technology either. So we needed to have fast experimentation on all sides. We needed to experiment fast on the product, on the messaging, on the type of customer. So we're doing what technically is called looking for product market fit. And being in a consumer space allowed us to iterate faster than being in medical space, where the regulatory slows you down at that time. Once the technology was nailed and validated, then we raised more money to go medical.
If I'm not mistaken, you were part of the team, or you were the team that went to China to manage the production process and prototyping first and then larger productions later. Do I remember well, or I'm mistaken?
I missed you for a second. Can you repeat the question?
Did you go to China to oversee the production process?
Yeah. I spent
Tell me about that experience.
It was my first time in China. So I spent 3 weeks there. We also had a software development team in Beijing. So the trip to China was motivated both by overseeing production and by the interaction with the software engineering team. Super interesting. I spent I think 2 weeks in Dongguan, which is a city in the south where we were producing the wearable, and then 2 more weeks in Beijing with my software engineering team. Very different world. I was very fascinated by Beijing. It struck me as very vibrant and very alive. Dongguan was, I was either in the factory or in the hotel. I didn't really see the city, so I can't really comment.
Why not Shenzhen?
Dongguan is near Shenzhen, and we had found a good partner to produce the wearable there. So
okay. Yeah, there are many stories of the ups and downs and adventures and miscommunication, and you open the box and the thing is really not what you expect. So it is interesting when a US company achieves their goal of actually being able to produce in China.
Yeah, I think in our case, we were quite well positioned for that. Both the original founders had lived in China and had met in China, and we had 5 people in the software development team in China. So we had a decent understanding of communication and of expectations that allowed us.
And what did you do after Spire?
Okay, so after Spire, I had a transition moment, as always happens when you come out of a very intense project. And then I started a project called Data Weekends, which was data science weekends, basically training courses in the weekend where you can attend, and still keep your job during the rest of the week.
And those courses were towards what kind of audience? What kind of people frequented the courses?
Yeah, so those courses were primarily designed for software engineers who we're talking about. This is the year 2015, beginning of 2016. So people wanted to really understand what machine learning was, and here in the area locally, and see if they could find a job in one of the big companies. And so, having that experience, I set up a minimum viable course that you could take over a weekend and understand what all the fuss was about. At the same time, I set up a consulting shop that allowed me to intercept some interesting projects, and then the two evolved into what I'm doing now.
Let's jump to that. So it is not easy to know what it is gonna be, because it is still kind of a stealth mode. Zero to deep learning is going online. Tons of video content, live online master classes, office hours, the ZDTL book, and more.
Yep. So zero to deep learning has been the natural evolution of Data Weekends, in that it was a 5-day bootcamp that we have run here in San Francisco and across the United States at multiple locations with companies in the last 2 years. And that material has been reconfigured into an online course that we will very soon open for the public. That we are running a sweepstakes right now. Cloud compute is one of the things that we've repeatedly heard from our students that they would like to have access to. So we are offering $1,000 of cloud compute credits to anyone who participates in the sweepstakes.
You mean on top of the first dose is free drug that Amazon and Google and IBM and Microsoft, all of them give you?
Yeah.
Because it is so addictive that rather than lasting for months, in the course of a week, you run out.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what is the model? You are talking about live Q&A and office hours, master classes. So this is not going to be inexpensive.
There will be different tiers with different level of access. I don't want to divulge the exact details, but there will be accessible tiers with recorded material for everyone to follow, and there will be higher tiers where you have a live component and potentially help in your career and other things that we're still honing the details of.
It's funny because I am actually in the process of doing something similar in a different camp rather than specifically for one technology across several technologies. I last year published a paradigm that I call of jolting technologies, especially AI, where the rate of acceleration is increasing. That's why you are talking about the jolt, which is the first derivative of acceleration in mathematics. And there are other technologies as well where the merely exponential paradigm that we study and teach at Singularity University is not enough anymore. And I am also trying to make sure that the people who experience this course can do so complementing the recorded material with live online interaction where the real value is, where they can ask questions and we brainstorm together and we pull up the various websites like I am doing right now in real time. Yes. So this is kind of a convergent evolution in your offering and in the offering that I am also designing and developing. Very, very good.
I think, one thing we're trying to be careful of is that in the last months, at least, people are in this Zoom overload where everything is live conferences. And so we are experimenting with small groups of people, what kind of things are the most interesting. We definitely don't want to come across as, just another, video conference.
I think one advantage of what you are offering is that it is very hands-on. You can have people doing exercises, showing their progress. They can invite you in the project, in the cloud, and you can show them a better way of doing things based on your experience.
Yes.
So it can be extremely, satisfying to see that what you learn is immediately applied.
Yes, absolutely. And then, all our code is open source. We use GitHub for it. So definitely the interaction is easy and, road tested. And I hope people will like it.
And how do you see the evolution of the platforms? There is always a constant leapfrogging. Amazon took everyone by surprise, becoming an important player in in cloud computing. Google has a more integrated approach where the layers of abstraction are shorter, and the developer tools touch not the metal, because it's turtles all the way down, and we don't see metal even with a telescope anymore. But how do you see the evolution of the tools for cloud computing, specifically for your type of applications in data science?
So it's a fierce battle at multiple levels, right? There is a battle of frameworks. That's one, and I can talk about that more in detail. There's the battle of tools and cloud compute offering, and I agree with you. Amazon has kind of come back to the AI, even the AI offering. It used to be Amazon is big in cloud compute, but for AI, Google was kind of preeminent. And in the recent release of AWS machine learning tools, there is so many APIs for machine learning that definitely Amazon has a chance to play in that ballpark, in that field. I think Azure is also an important player to remember from Microsoft. They have a wide offering for machine learning, and with their recent partnering with OpenAI, they are at the forefront of what's been done in machine learning.
And what about the frameworks?
Yeah, so frameworks. If you go back in time, let's say 4 or 5 years, there was an interesting attempt by all companies. You notice that more or less within the span of a year, all major tech companies, they open sourced their frameworks. You had Amazon who open sourced theirs, Google open sourced theirs, Microsoft open sourced theirs, Facebook their framework open source. So you had projects such as TensorFlow, MXNet, PyTorch, and so on. This battle of frameworks that you can see here, in my opinion, is over now. There is only 2 contestants standing, and one is TensorFlow and the other is PyTorch. And PyTorch is winning in the research arena, and TensorFlow is winning in the enterprise arena.
And what about the containerization in terms of deployability of the applications, Kubernetes and the others?
Yes, it's a very clear trend, and it's going to continue. Most machine learning models nowadays, regardless of how they are implemented, they're hosted on a containerized platform such as Kubernetes. One trend that is very clear now is the trend of frameworks that allow you to manage both the infrastructure and the training and the deployment as code. So these are projects such as MLflow or Metaflow. They are scripting languages that allow you to tie together different parts of the data science pipeline, of the machine learning pipeline. So you manage the whole life cycle. Another one is called TFX, which is the one that's from TensorFlow. So if you look for TensorFlow TFX, exactly, TensorFlow extended. They all solve the same problem. They basically make the pipeline scriptable and reproducible.
So this is the foundation of platforms and tools and management systems, all that allow to tie together the features of the various tools. Let's talk a little bit about applications. So the classical AI examples of image recognition, voice or speech recognition, and others. Now the astonishing results of GPT-3. and I would love to hear your experience or your opinion about it as well as GPT-4 or 5, what other applications would you mention? Maybe less, picturesque, but in a business environment, extremely valuable that your clients or students go on implementing.
Yeah, I think the big one that people look for is fraud and anomaly detection. So that's a very common application of machine learning in business. For any company that's dealing with interactions from the outside world, they need a layer of protection. Sometimes they buy it from a company, sometimes they implement it themselves. We worked with some very large clients on that. So definitely companies are implementing things that are related to image recognition in of the network. So now you have these models that are pretty good at recognizing objects, and they're made so light and small that you can deploy them on a small chipset, on an edge device. For example, recently, one of the state-of-the-art models for image recognition is called YOLO version 4. And it's YOLO. YOLO. And that's very, very, very small. So yeah, YOLO V4, correct. Version 4 is a model that's made for real-time object recognition in embedded devices. And so, you have tons of different applications that go from self-driving to, recognition of situations in several environments, tracking. It also opens up to, kind of worms in the security space of big brotherish surveillance. So, there's that too.
Now let's go back to GPT-3 and for those of us watching, machine learning is based on the ability to recognize patterns in large amounts of data, and there has been a challenge in making these models able to stick to the context of what they were looking at. They were too easily distracted and they would forget what they were talking about. And a few years ago, a new approach called Transformer was able to attack the problem from a different angle, achieving a longer attention span for these pattern recognition models that could be then applied specifically, and there can be other applications as well, to predicting what the next word could be in a text. And as the machine was looking at the text, it would go, oh, okay, I think that the next word in this sentence could be, and then the word was put there by the machine. And the larger the volume of text that would be analyzed in order to train the predictive model, the better it would be, but nobody knew, and still nobody really knows, whether there is a threshold of volume of data in the training above which the ability of this text generation approach starts to decline, relatively speaking. So it is not worth increasing the training data tenfold because you only get a 1% improvement. And GPT-2 published a couple of years ago in open source format progressively by the OpenAI Foundation, has been very good, trained on a volume of data to then be formalized in 1.5 billion parameters that were set through training. And just a few months ago, the new version GPT-4 has been released.
GPT-3.
Yeah, I wish. GPT-3 has been released, which is based on a much larger corpus of data, and it trains the settings of 170 billion parameters. And the results surprised, you may confirm whether this is the case, even the experts who kind of expected for the benefit to start plateauing. But the examples that we see of GPT-3 being used interactively rather than in an open source version that you can download and run yourself through an API, these are just incredible examples. So, what is your opinion of GPT-3? Have you had the chance of playing with it yourself? And then let's think about more things around it.
Yeah, I'll start from saying that you're right. In the last couple of years, the focus has been on these language models that have improved in performance and being trained in the very same way. You're always trying to predict the next word, and by just increasing the model size and increasing the amount of data. Yes, I have had the opportunity to play with GPT-3. For some, in some aspects, is impressive in that it can generate text that looks very much like the text a person would write. It's also impressive in the way it fails, because it's very clear it does not understand what it's talking about. And so I'm afraid that the biggest use of GPT-3 right now is producing human-like text that could be used for like product reviews or for fake news or things like that. Q&A is an interesting space for GPT-3 because it has enough knowledge of the world that it can, if prompted with the Q&A pattern, is able to follow that pattern and so reply to trivia. And so, for example, it could serve as an assistant to a student that asks questions about, known facts, like, for example, what's the capital of France, or who discovered the United States in 1492, and so on. So for those kind of applications, I think GPT-3 is definitely ready.
And the example that implements this approach is Learn from Anyone, which pretends to be able, or expects to be able, to impersonate a philosopher or a scientist or a poet, and then you interact with that fictional person to go deep in the subject that they are expert about in their own style. And the enthusiasm around this kind of approach is pretty high.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're exploring that too. I think it's a very promising tool for the world of education, for example.
So you are not afraid of being replaced by a robot data science instructor?
I wish, I want to be replaced by a robot data scientist.
As long as you own the robot.
That's a very interesting question, and we could go into that. I'm happy to explore that. I think the important thing is, as long as I can make some living off of the robot, and so if I own the robot is one option, but also if I don't own the robot, but the robot pays some taxes and I get a dividend of the automation, I would be fine with that too.
Yeah. People talk about universal basic income,
Yes.
But I like to talk about universal basic wealth because we think of the economy as accruing a lot of wealth to the wealthy and accruing disproportionately less to the less wealthy. And that increases wealth inequality.
Yes.
And this kind of vision that I promote takes into account also sources of wealth and well-being that are typically ignored, like the ecological support systems that we all take advantage of. You can breathe air, you can drink water, you have gravity, you have sunshine. Those are things that we tend to take for granted, and we kind of shouldn't. So as our societies become more and more automated or automatable, we can think of not only ecological but economic support systems that become available to everyone. And that is why talking about
absolutely.
the footprint of AI and embedded AI that can be in any device, not only available in very expensive billion-dollar data centers, is quite important, because that is the trend towards the democratization of the tools that then become the source of a more widespread wealth creation.
Yeah, things could go very right or very wrong, and the forces that we're dealing with are definitely powerful, and so there is an important degree of responsibility, and the AI world, for that matter, has been quite concerned with some aspects of this technology, which is really powerful.
I participated in the conference originally organized by Elon Musk and now by the institute that he financed, the Future of Life Institute at MIT in Puerto Rico.
In Puerto Rico.
It's every couple of years. It's an invitation-only meeting whose subject is AGI, safety and security.
Yeah.
So not talking about the mere mistakes that current narrow AI applications can make in denying loans or misclassifying students or being racist, but huge existential threats potentially represented by advanced AI, or AI that is able to advance on its own, which is one of the holy grails of a lot of research.
I think that's a concern, and it's great that researchers are thinking of it. The shorter terms impacts of automation technology on society are the things that worry me the most at this time. Because as you said, I could be put out of job by an algorithm, and so could many other people, and people without jobs become angry and hungry, and you don't want that.
So is it your expectation that GPT-4 will convince you that it understands what it is talking about?
So maybe not GPT-4, could be GPT-N, where N is a small number, 5, 6, or 7. There is an argument for why that should be the case that I've recently also read, that if a model is trained in predicting the next word, okay, at some point, the only way it has to improve its ability to predict the word is to form an intuition about what the words are actually talking about. So as you increase the amount of data and as you increase the model size, the model will for sure approximate what we deem to be understanding. I think the question I have is, how is the model able to extrapolate or imagine alternate possibilities? Like, is the model able to reason outside of the world that it has been trained on? And that's something that I'm not sure GPTN is going to be able to do. Or if it is, the way to find out is going to be to ask the model in natural language, can you imagine a situation where this happens? And the model will, reply to that.
Yeah, it is wonderful to be able to start asking those questions that were absolutely hypothetical 20, 30, 40, 50 years
ago.
Even
5 years ago, to be honest.
It is quite amazing. That is why I'm talking about jolting technologies and jolting times. Ray Kurzweil revised his numbers. Originally, the symbolic year for when human level AI could be bought for $1,000 was 2045, and now he says 2038, and maybe next year he's gonna say 2025. And then, boom, we are there. So we'll see. So, Francesco, good luck with the launch of Zero to Deep Learning.
Thank you very much.
And anybody who signs up has the chance of winning $1,000 of cloud compute resources, and you can multiply your chances manifold by having potentially hundreds of entries rather than just one in the sweepstakes. If you follow Twitter, if you share on Twitter, if you what is your
you can watch our YouTube videos, check the documentation of some frameworks, refer some friends, visit our website. There's a number of actions you can take.
It is incentivizing attention, dedication, and a lot of good behavior that starts you on a path of learning by itself.
Yeah, and it's hopefully providing value in the contest as well. I mean, by visiting the documentation of a framework, you start to learn already.
Exactly. So, Francesco, good luck again, and thank you very much for being a guest on Searching for the Question Live.
Thank you, David, for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody, for being together with us today on Searching for the Question Live. If you speak Italian and you like this kind of conversations, you can also subscribe to my Italian YouTube channel on davidorban.com/YouTube Italiano. Just go there. It will switch you over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and then you will get not only the Italian show, but the English show, and so on. And you can also suggest guests and vote on guests that you would like to see on Searching for the Question Live. So there are many ways to participate, as well as if you like the content, to become a fan, a supporter, a sponsor, or a benefactor on Patreon at patreon.com/David Orban. Thank you again, and see you at the next episode of Searching for the Question Live.